dramatically, seriously. Well, first of all, Homer Simpson voices the babysitter at the beginning. Did everybody see that in the credits? Yeah, that's hilarious. I hadn't seen that before.
It was a big trend to have an animated opening for your film, late 80s, early 90s. I was glad we did. That's neat, nice little classy move.
The movie was made for about 10, I think even less than 10 million.
It was 10 and then 10 for a marketing budget.
Use your microphone.
I'm sorry.
We are recording. We discussed this.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, then Warner Brothers, the movie got made, and we were told that if one of 5 directors would agree to direct it, that they would greenlight the movie, but then also they needed casting. It was cast contingent, and it's kind of a long story, but ultimately it got to Christina Applegate. She liked it, she wanted to do it, and we had a green light. I remember we went out to lunch, and there was an earthquake, like a tremor during lunch. Do you remember this? And as soon as it stopped shaking, Tara reached across the table and she said, "We still have a go movie, right?" Because we kept thinking it was going to fall apart, because it fell apart so many times. And then it got made, and Warner Brothers wanted to change the title, and they hired a retitling company. And the #1 pick for the new title was...
Wait, they did a focus group
yes,
with a bunch of 12-year-olds, and they gave them 100 titles to choose from.
Yes.
You don't remember this?
No. I just remember getting the list.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we hated this title, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, because and it was the director, Stephen Herrick directed Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and we thought he's gonna, and we're not saying anything bad about anybody, just so you know, just, when you look back in history, we thought it's gonna get really dumbed down, and it's not gonna be what we thought, because we thought we were really smart and important, and we didn't, but I'm very glad they changed the title, because it's memorable. People, I've seen it as an answer on Jeopardy. When Johnny Carson used to do The Tonight Show, it was the punchline on The Tonight Show. I mean, people have remembered the movie, for better or worse. Because we're watching it, we're sitting next to each other, and, for a lot of it, we're cringing a lot. Because it's, so anachronistic, and there's a sweatshop, and there's not diversity, and there's just so many things that and she's smoking cigarettes.
I was focused on so many other things, like the sweatshop went right over my head on this view.
We were just...
And what's with the lipstick? What was with the lipstick? That all of the women were wearing these massive, massive coats of lipstick. I'm sorry, that bothered me.
It was the 80s, and shoulder pads.
There's a smoking fetish website that has close-up shots of Christina Applegate lighting her cigarettes. Yeah.
And when the reviews came out, we got in trouble because it looked like we were advocating smoking for teenagers. When that was a tiny subplot where she was supposed to quit at the end and say to her mother, "I grew out of my rebellious phase," and then that got cut. So. No, we're against smoking. Don't smoke. It's bad for you. But anyway.
I would say that the biggest shift from when we conceptualized and wrote the movie to the final execution of it was, for us, it really was a working girl movie. Our hearts were in the relationship between Swell and Rose, and this idea of this young girl passing herself off as a grown-up woman and having to take on all of this responsibility. And that was all of the stuff that we loved. And the studio kept wanting more kids, and they really wanted it to be more of a mom is away, kids go crazy kind of movie. So there was never another writer on the program. Neil and I were with it from start to finish. But that was always the tension of sort of where the heart and soul of the movie was. And they shot everything we wrote, but it was in the editing. That the Rose and Sue Ellen relationship got trimmed down, a lot of the workplace humor got trimmed down, and all of the stuff with the kids really was highlighted for them. And of course it was called Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. So.
Well, also, and I'm sure you have questions, here we are, we're just like jumping in. We both are professors now, so we're like, let's do a lecture. No, but the point is, the beginning, in our original script, the babysitter was very nice. They said, well, we don't want a nice old lady dying. This is a comedy. And we said, but it happens really fast. And so our original vision was, not only does she die, but she was a nice lady, and we didn't want anybody to ever mention the babysitter again after that. So because the last line of the movie, "Where's the babysitter?" was never changed from even the first we index card, did index cards for the outline. That was always the last line. And I think actually that's why we sold the script, because people loved that. Most people who read the script forgot about the babysitter, right?
Yeah, and I mean, to pass it back over to KJ, I do want to say that when we saw the rough cut for the first time of the film, and we were on the set a lot, the two high points of the movie for us were Christina Applegate, who we thought was fabulous, and Keith Coogan, who made the movie.
Thank you.
That was such a joy.
Well, I just got to swap with her for the rebellious saying the same. We all got to say the same lines. I'll do it later. That's not my responsibility. Same things that she had said to the mom. And I love that you guys, part of your inception was you'd seen, other films. They had told me before that, parents are ways so the kids go crazy. And they had an idea. They go, what if the kids got their shit together? And fix the household. And so that bled down from Christina kind of getting it together and having this great come of age to all of us. And the character, all of the work, I really loved Chris Pettit. We miss Chris dearly. And we've also...
Zach. He's no longer with us.
Lost a producer as well. So those people are sorely missed. But you gave everybody such great little bits, just little details. He was just this great kind of fact man. I love Chris Pettit's bit. He's like, oh yeah, like MacGyver.
He's like a crime hound. Like he knows that the body should not be. She hasn't been dead long enough for the body to start smelling.
When Neil and I always think whenever we watch this movie that the heart of the movie, of the finished movie for us, is the final scene with you and Sue Ellen, when you sort of swap gender roles and sort of the traditional household roles, and you turn on her and she turns back on you, and that scene makes us so happy watching that.
There is that one.
Well, I mean, even though the studio really insisted on you putting more kids in the movie,
Kenny
like
and
that's
Sue Ellen were always
yeah,
Kenny and Sue Ellen.
yeah, and that is also one of my favorite bits. The relationship between Sue Ellen and Rose is so fantastic, and I want to get to that in a second, but also the way that you two develop together, and that gender role reversal plays out so nicely. And at that moment, like, the other kids are kind of a little quieter, or they're in bed or away. Yeah.
Well, the evil babysitter and that whole beginning part, that was the one moment where we almost quit because we sat down, and the way we would write together is we would take turns typing, and we're talking like first typewriters, and then very, very early like MS-DOS, and her father taught us how to use a computer. But anyway, the point is, we had the note from the studio to make the babysitter evil and to write that whole kind of what we thought was very broadly comedic, although it gets laughs, especially when we went to the first test screening in Orange County with a lot of teenagers. They loved the movie. They started cheering when Christina first came up on screen, and Tara reached over to me and she said, "This movie is brilliant," because it was for that audience, and the audience really, really loved it. But I remember neither of us could write rewrite those scenes. You don't remember this? You were like, I can't even type it. You type. And because we knew what they wanted, we just didn't want to do it. But we knew that if we didn't do it, we would get fired and they'd bring somebody else in to rewrite us. So we said, we don't want to we want full credit. There are a lot of financial benefits to not sharing credit. So we did it, but we were not happy about that. But like I said, in hindsight, what completely baffles us, and not to say anything judgmental if you like this movie, but is that it's become more and more popular every year, and it kind of turned into a cult movie. But we, as the authors of it, and it was an original script, there's no IP or anything, we just came up with it a very long time ago. We're as surprised as anybody else that it's still a popular movie, and that people quote lines of dialogue to us at parties, and we don't really get it, right? I mean, we were just talking about all the Oscar movies and how so many great movies.
I want to say part of the conceit is because we were making the real world. This was a working girl at the office. We took this very seriously. I think that was part of the reason why Christina got on board. She goes, this is a very good, serious female lead. I was standing at craft service when they renamed the movie. They came and told us on the set where the party was, where we'd have the craft service table and near where the trucks and stuff were and the trailers. And they said, don't tell them on the babies. I go apostrophes and plurals. And there's no way anybody's going to spell this the same way. Like, it won't track, people won't look it up right. And that is the only thing that could be called. Also, you guys could see the whole picture. I didn't even get the kitchen scene. Stephen Herrick guided me, but I didn't really, when you see the forest for the trees, I really didn't get what is so funny about that thing, and really just playing it straight. But you wrote, it's all puzzle pieces, everything from Franklin to Nicole to all of the pieces fit together, and you gave everyone such clear goals that we could all really commit to our roles. Melissa and Zach and Walter. Elvis was one of the best. That's the same dog from Accidental Tourist, by the way.